Hello everyone, the topic I share today is around the feed of layers. The price of raw materials for feed has been rising recently. Under these circumstances, how to reduce the cost of feed formula for layers is of particular concern of farmers and feed mills. Before introducing the strategy, I'd like to share the current situation of layers in China first. There are many similarities in the breeding situation of layers in China and other regions overseas. As we all know, the feed cost accounts for more than 70% of the entire breeding cost of layers. The amount of corn and soybean meal in the feed can be up to 70% and less 60%. In this case, the price of corn and soybean meal primarily determines the price of feed. You can see the price of domestic corn has been around $413 per ton in the past 2 weeks, and soybean meal is also at high price for $763 per ton. If converted into the feed price, the price has increased by $46 per ton compared with the previous one, and has exceeded $495, which means the cost of a pound of eggs has increased by 13 cents compared with last year, and the cost of egg production has reached $1.5 per kilogram. Which worse was, egg price has continued to slump. Although egg price have recovered somewhat during this period, especially some overseas areas may get higher prices due to bird flu impact. Some farmers can still make profits. Still, some farmers are in a state of loss. For feed companies, the cost has risen high, but the increase in egg price is difficult to have a direct impact on it. That's why the strategy for reducing the cost of feed formula is so concerned by farmers and feed companies. There are 2 ways to reduce the cost of feed formulation, which are also currently being implemented by feed mills and breeding plants. The first is to replace the amount of soybean meal with miscellaneous meal, and the second is to reduce the overall nutritional level of the feed, especially reduced energy and protein. In that way, feed cost can be saved while maintaining performance and egg quality. The theme shared today is around these 2 general directions. First of all, let's check the nutritional formula of replacing soybean meal with miscellaneous meal. Many feed companies we contact will do this. There is cottonseed meal, rapeseed meal, DDGS, and many other raw materials used in formulation. What factors need to be considered for using these miscellaneous meals? Here, I summarize 4 points. First, focus on the price and supply. Second, compare the nutritional indicators with soybean meal. Third, it is used as a protein raw material to replace soybean meal. In addition to protein level, the most important thing to pay attention is protein digestibility. And fourth, how to identify harmful ingredients and control content. First, the price. In China, the price of soybean meal with 43% protein content reached $763 per ton, and the price of protein was $80.6 per kilogram. And for some other miscellaneous meal, such as cottonseed meal, the protein content is still high, while the price is only $589 per ton. The protein price is $12 to $13 per kilogram. The protein content of rapeseed meal is slightly lower. The protein price is about $15 per kilogram. The unit price of peanut meal is high due to the protein content is relatively high, and the protein price is $13.5 per kilogram, while the unit price of corn germ meal is low, but the price of a single protein is high. And the unit price of DDGS is low either. The protein price is $14 per kilogram. When using miscellaneous meal, on the one hand, it is necessary to consider the price, and on the other hand, it is necessary to consider whether the process conditions of the area are fitted. our customers will use it after comprehensive consideration. Second, focus on the nutritional indicators. The first column in the figure is the nutritional index of soybean meal. The nutritional index of the following other miscellaneous meals that is lower than the index of soybean meal is marked in red. If these raw materials are added, these nutritional indicators need to be supplemented. Later, I will give a detailed introduction on the key points of replacing soybean meal with mixed meal's raw materials. For cottonseed meal, its protein content is relatively high, but crude fiber content is twice as high as soybean meal. So, the content and digestibility of some essential amino acids are also relatively low. For other raw materials, both peanut meal and rapeseed meal are deficient in essential amino acids. Corn germ meal and DDGS have low content for both protein and essential amino acids content. Also, DDGS has high fat content, so the problem of oxidative acidity should be considered before using it. In addition to nutritional indicators, protein digestibility should be paid more attention to. The ability of layers to digest feed is limited. The latest research found that the apparent digestibility of layers for protein is only 75%. If corn soybean meal is used as raw materials, the digestibility of corn can be 89 to 93%, and the digestibility of soybean meal can be 84 to 89%. The final digestibility is much higher than 75%. If miscellaneous meal is used to replace soybean meal, the apparent digestibility is only 70%, more than 10 percentage points lower than soybean meal, and the final digestibility will lower than 75%, which has not reached the upper limit of the digestibility of layers. Low digestibility results in less protein being absorbed, which can have an impact on production performance and egg quality. The fourth is to identify harmful ingredients. The miscellaneous meals are good for its price and protein content, but the harmful components in it can damage the intestines and fallopian tubes for layers. So, which substances can cause damage? How are they currently controlled? And what are the requirements of national standards? For botanical raw materials, mycotoxins, especially aflatoxins B1, zearalenone, and DON have a huge impact. Aflatoxin B1 and DON damage the gut, while zearalenone is detrimental to fallopian tube health. The chart above shows the national standard, and the chart below is the standard of enterprises. As for some regions, like Thailand, the group enterprises have their own standards, which may be higher than the national standard, and the content of harmful substances will be lower. There are some other harmful components, such as gossypol in cottonseed meal, is required to be lower than 100 ppm. And the isothiocyanate in rapeseed meal is required to be below than 500 ppm. It can be found that the content of gossypol under the national standard is relatively high, and our research found that when the content reaches 70 ppm, it will affect the intestinal immune function of layers and cause inflammatory reactions. Therefore, when using cottonseed meal, the content of free gossypol should be controlled within 70 ppm. When using raw materials, it is also necessary to consider the synergistic and cumulative effects between raw materials to control toxins at low levels. Here, we show you the situation in China that the content of mycotoxins exceeds the standard. The first graph shows a very low rate of excess aflatoxins B1, while the excess of DON is high and higher than that of zearalenone. Therefore, it is necessary to pay attention to the DON in the feed raw materials first, followed by zearalenone. The toxin content of different raw materials is different. It can be seen that corn germ meal and DDGS have different levels of excess. When using these raw materials, special attention should be paid to the amount of DON and zearalenone. There are some other harmful ingredients should be controlled too. The content of free gossypol in cottonseed meal can reach 1000 ppm, while the content of gossypol is required to be not higher than 70 ppm. It can be concluded that when the content of cottonseed meal is higher than 6%, it will cause intestinal inflammation. The erucic acid and glucosinolates in rapeseed meal should also be kept very low because they can affect egg quality. The phytate phosphorus content in peanut meal is high, so using phytates should be considered. Related to the 4 points mentioned above, price, nutritional indicators, protein digestibility, and harmful ingredients, we summarized the advantages and disadvantages of different raw materials to replace soybean meal and solutions. For cottonseed meal, it has high protein content and high available phosphorus content. In view of the recent high price of calcium hydrogen phosphate, it can be used to reduce the use of inorganic phosphorus. The high content of arginine and cysteine means that it can be used with vegetable seed meal, sunflower meal, and other low arginine raw materials. The protein content of cottonseed meal is high, but the digestibility is low. So, some functional substances, such as some small peptides, should be used to improve the digestibility. Except for arginine and cysteine, the content of other essential amino acids is relatively low, and additional crystalline amino acids need to be supplemented. Metabolizable energy value also needs to be supplemented. In addition, due to the existence of free gossypol, the usage of cottonseed meal should be controlled within 6%. The protein content of peanut meal is high, so does the content of arginine, but the content of other essential amino acids is insufficient. Moreover, it is easy to be infected during storage, and mycotoxins always exceed the standard. Thus, the dosage needs to be controlled within 5%. The content of calcium and phosphorus in rapeseed meal is high, but the content of essential amino acids needs to be supplemented too. And the protein digestibility is low, and functional substances need to be added. Also, it has high content of crude fiber, glucosinolate, and erucic acid. If the rapeseed meal is added in a large amount, the fiber will be degraded by microorganisms in the calcium to produce a substance that gives the eggs a fishy smell. The dosage needs to be controlled to prevent any impact on egg quality. The protein content and essential amino acids content of corn germ meal are low, and the DON always exceed the standard. We also need to pay attention about that. DDGS is widely used in most areas, as it is high in phosphorus and fermented with substances that are good for growth. However, the protein content and digestibility are low, and functional substances need to be added. And the amino acid content of DDGS is also low, so crystalline amino acids need to be supplemented. The fat content, especially the unsaturated fatty acid content, is high. The acid value needs to be regularly measured during use to prevent rancidity. Zearalenone and DON often exceed the standard too. When DDGS is used, the effective DDGS content can be determined by measuring the ash content, and the content should be controlled within 7%. At the same time, due to the high crude fiber content, the overall dosage should not exceed 12%. In summary, here are the recommended dosage of various miscellaneous meals. Cottonseed meal should not exceed 6%. Detoxified cottonseed meal should not exceed 15%. Peanut meal, rapeseed meal, corn germ meal should not exceed 5%. And the usage of DDGS should not exceed 12%. Replacing soybean meal with miscellaneous meal is currently used by most agriculture and feed companies. It should be noted that the protein digestibility of miscellaneous meal is low, so functional substances need to be added. For harmful substances, the functional substances can also help repair the intestinal tract. Paying attention to the above points can make good use of miscellaneous meal without affecting the production performance of layers and the quality of eggs. The other way is to reduce the overall nutrient level of the feed. High nutritional level for layers is designed in Thailand. However, layers have an upper limit on the utilization of protein, and the protein that cannot be digested will be fermented in the hind gut, which has an impact on intestinal health. Under the condition of ensuring the production performance and egg quality of layers, in view of rising price of raw materials, it is reasonable to consider reducing the nutritional level of the feed. The reduction of nutrient level is mainly due to the reduction of protein and energy. To ensure that the production performance and egg quality of layers are not affected, it is necessary to improve the utilization rate of nutrients in feed. After the feed is eaten, it is absorbed through the intestines, transported to the fallopian tubes through the blood, and deposited in the eggs. So, special attention should be paid to the intestine and fallopian tubes. The digestive and absorptive capacity of the intestinal tract can be improved by adding acidulants and enzymes. The use of miscellaneous meal or amino-derived protein could be harmful to the intestines of layers that are already highly stressed. It is recommended to use substances that help repair intestinal damage to improve digestion and absorption, since the fallopian tube is prone to inflammation due to the egg production. It is recommended to use functional substances like small peptide that help with antioxidants and reduce inflammation. Therefore, it is recommended to use our production Fortide. As small peptides, Fortide can effectively improve the utilization rate of protein digestion, absorption, and protein deposition in layers. Active peptides can promote intestinal development and stability, and at the same time have antioxidant factors, reduce the inflammatory response of the intestine and fallopian tubes.